Good evening, everybody. It is 7 o'clock and it's Friends of Stirling Road Library. We respect your time and we start right on time. And so welcome, and I'm happy to see all of you in the gallery. And thank you so very much, the Friends of Stirling Road Library. Because of you, we're able to have Shelly and Georgian and Robert Watson and all of the wonderful facilitators that we have. So it is because of your support and your generosity. If anybody here is here for the first time or as a guest, I welcome you on behalf of the Friends, and I ask you to check us out at www.stirlingfriends.org and hope that you seriously consider becoming a friend as well. And if you go to www.stirlingfriends.org, you could check out all the wonderful things we do, and we look forward to you joining us. It is the end of November, and I don't really have the December calendar. So you'll have to get your newsletter and check it out on your own.
These lawmakers are protected because.
And what I will ask you each to do is please put yourselves on mute so that we don't have to listen to your conversations. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Shelly, who we are so happy to have with us. And just as we are all going to have happy family this week for Thanksgiving, we're going to find out what a happy family in Georgia is. What we thought or what we think, but so be it. So Shelly, take it away.
Thank you, Marilyn. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. And yes, My Happy Family is a Georgian film in 2017. It was directed by a couple. Their names are Nana. She is Nana, and you'll have to forgive me. It's such a Ekvitimishvili, and Simon Gross. That's the easy one. He's the easy one. And Simon Gross. At the Berlin, I have to tell you about them. They're a terrific couple. I've seen them in interviews at the Berlin International Film Festival in 2013. Nana and Simon, they had their debut film, which was entitled In Bloom. And it was referred to back then, receiving its awards in Europe, as the birth of the new Georgian wave. And in Hong Kong, the film was named as the spring of Georgian cinema. The International Society of Film Critics has called the film a sign of the rebirth of Georgian film. These two have been sort of responsible for that, and now they continue with their observations of Georgian life with My Happy Family. The Georgian title is Chemi Bednieri Ojaki. And it's a quiet, it is a not so quiet story, but one that carries the weight of an entire culture's expectations. And we see that it centers on Mañana, a married high school literature teacher living a seemingly typical life in Tbilisi. However, typical in this context means sharing a crowded, multi-generational apartment with her husband, her adult children, her in-laws, her parents. And her world is one of constant noise, communal demands, and zero personal space. And on her 52nd birthday, against the wishes of her family, Mañana makes a simple yet utterly radical decision. She rents a small apartment across town and moves out with no explanation and no immediate plan to divorce. I would like to add also that to have appreciated the full depth of this film is to understand the strong patriarchal and collectivist framework of Georgian society. The traditional ideal for a woman is defined by her duty to the extended family and her willingness to suppress individual desires for the good of the unit. Mañana's decision to pursue her own happiness, to create a room of her own, fundamentally destabilizes this order. This cultural tension is the engine of the film. When we look at the cinematography, how the directors use the cramped spaces and the cacophony of sound, and how it contrasts with her decision. There's a famous sentence that opens one of literature's great works, Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. This line applies powerfully to Happy Family, but with a crucial reversal of the film's premise. The film has resonated globally, and I'll get to that in a minute. The film has resonated globally because while the context is specifically Georgian, the struggle to find individual identity within crushing familial and societal roles is universal. Tolstoy's statement is often interpreted as the Anna Karenina principle. It's entitled the Anna Karenina. For a family to succeed at being happy, all necessary conditions must be met. But there are countless ways for just one condition to fail, leading to many different types of unhappiness. However, this film works by flipping the logic on its head. The film portrays the film's unhappiness as being quite alike, as every family's unhappiness is being quite alike. It stems from the collective expectation of Georgian tradition. Mañana's unhappiness is not a unique tragedy like adultery or financial ruin, as in Tolstoy's land. It is the banality of shared existence, defined by this cacophony of constant noise, the total lack of privacy, and the universal suppression of the woman's self for the good of the family. This specific type of collectivist suffocating unhappiness is presented as the default condition for many women like Mañana. Her decision to rent that silent, sunlit apartment and to eat cake and practice guitar is her own unique solution. Her path to happiness is not about conforming to a universally accepted happy family structure. It's about defining a new kind of individual peace. In this way, she's establishing her own form of self-liberation, and peace is her own way. Something truly unique and personal that cannot be easily replicated or understood by the world she is leaving behind. For me, the genius of the film lies in how it frames Mañana's simple need for that space as a monumental revolutionary act. She's not leaving an abusive home. She's leaving the expectation of endless service and sacrifice. Her act of seeking solitude is treated by her family not as a choice, but as a personal catastrophe and a scandalous public embarrassment. When we look at the production values, which are a great deal on scène, the setting of the stage and all of these things in every frame, the crowded family apartment really is like the film's primary antagonist. It's not just characters, it's the living space. The directors use long takes and tight framing to trap Mañana constantly, moving her between loud, interrupting family members. It creates a feeling of claustrophobia. When we see Mañana's new apartment, it is somewhat spacious for her, sunlit, and almost empty. The very center of a newfound peace, the physical space, directly mirrors her emotional state. The sound design is also crucial. The old apartment is dominated by the cacophony of the constant chatter, dishes, and TV. The quiet of Mañana's new life is a profound relief. This leads us to the cake, what I call the cake eating sequence, which is the purest distillation of her liberation. In her old life, she couldn't eat cake until her mother approved. Her mother says, "Why are you eating cake? You didn't eat dinner yet." She's constantly hounded. She just wanted that piece of cake at the beginning, if you remember. And in her new life, she's seated alone in that apartment, listening to classical music, Mozart, and deliberately cutting and eating that slice of cake. This simple act of eating what she wants, when she wants, in complete solitude, visually and audibly signifies a newly claimed personal sovereignty. The family's reaction or overreaction to Mañana moving out must be viewed through the lens of these Georgian patriarchal norms. They see it as scandalous, not because she would be divorcing or she isn't divorcing, but because she's defying her assigned lifelong role. Her value is tied to her domestic function, caring for her children, husband, and parents. By moving out, she's violating a powerful cultural contract that demands women sacrifice, as I said, their personal happiness for collective family honor. We see the family's attempt to enforce her return through social policing, not just all the cousins and everybody coming in and trying to force her to reverse her decision, but her brother Rezo, how he sees her when we first see him alone with her, he's saying, "Why? How could you do this?" And he leaves in frustration, then comes back, and then later on, when he goes to see where she lives, he apparently, one of the guys there recognizes him, and he says to them, obviously goes off camera, but he's telling them to watch over her. He's policing. Visiting them and airing, her private decision is the ultimate violation. He does this under the guise of protection, but it is truly the act of control, stripping her of the right to anonymity and dignity. The message is clear. Her life is communal property, not her, not hers. The film refuses to provide a neat resolution, which I'll get to in a minute. We see her meeting the woman in the market who has that little stall, and she learns about the high school reunion. We've heard different music to this point, a lot of Georgian music. They call it polyphonic music. The group sings. It's never an individual, it's the group. We see the men, and it's mostly the men. The men sing their songs together. We see it several times. Yet at the high school reunion, they ask her to sing, and they hear her voice. She sings a song. It's a Georgian song, but it's about her. It's about her life. It's about her feelings. And it's a sign of her own expression. And they all get quiet when she sings the song. And also it's the revelatory scene in the film. It's the great revelation in the film, because Mañana learns that Soso, her husband, betrayed her and has a son to boot. This is the first time. They all thought she knew, and no. And I love how she gets to the apartment, how she gets in when she tracks down the mother and the son. She says she's there to check the gas. And if you remember at the beginning, which also is a scene I have to recall, at the beginning, a woman does come to check the gas and says to her, "You're new," and says the last woman that was there committed suicide. And makes one, when we think back to it, it makes one think she was probably like Mañana. She couldn't get out of her situation, so she decided to kill herself. But Mañana is not built that way. Mañana, and I don't know if you also noticed, I'm recalling things as I talk a little out of context, but remember when she's teaching the class at the beginning, and if you looked at the wall, and this is what I call mise en scène, this is what I call setting the stage. If you looked at the wall, there's a picture of Leo Tolstoy on the wall, which made me, when I saw it the first time, think about what was going on, because the title of the film is My Happy Family, and it's anything but. It's anything but. So it really flips the whole Tolstoy thing on its head. And now so she learns about, so she also, there's another revelation when her oldest son is seen with another woman on the street. So that one has changed, and now the youngest son is getting married, and he, to his girlfriend, he brings her home. We see she's pregnant. So the cycle is repeating itself. We see the cycle, this patriarchal cycle repeating itself. I'm glad she got out of there, because now another mouth to feed comes in, or maybe two mouths to feed come in at least. But we see that cycle, and So really wants to get back to her, and he offers to put the shelves up. When they have their little tete-a-tete the night before, or whatever that was, after she leaves the apartment, he said, "I'll come over. I'll put up the shelves for you." And he comes over, and while he's there, I love it when the guys come to the apartment and they want to know who he is. And he almost gets into a major fight with them until Mañana comes out and says, "Why are you bothering my husband?" And they go, "Oh, he's your husband." It is a comical scene, because we know they don't know. This is what Rezo set up. He would have inadvertently killed his brother-in-law. I mean, it's just all of these things that are happening. But it's when he arrives, it creates a very tense, temporary domestic moment. He doesn't know that she knows about his son. But the family's noise is gone, leaving them as two individuals who must face each other outside their traditional roles. This quiet scene is pivotal because it follows Mañana's discovery, that of the illegitimate child. And after they argue this out, without saying the words, they're arguing it out. The directors intentionally cut before any decision is made. I love that. I know some of you may have had a problem with that because it defies your expectation of what an ending's going to be. And that's the greatest thing a director can do. We tend to get upset when a director doesn't do something. We feel we're fooled. We feel, oh, they didn't do it that way. No, we fooled ourselves. We fool ourselves because the director is doing what they want to do intentionally. Is not to fool you, but that's the story. Okay, we cut it here for a reason, because that is where it's left to us to figure out what's going to happen next. What could happen next? Has Mañana's temporary self-exile established a permanent psychological boundary, especially between her and her husband, let alone her and the rest of the family? Can the marriage continue on terms that respect her need for space? And that would mean So moving in with her because she's not moving back. The film tells us that self-liberation is not a single dramatic event, but a hard-won, ongoing state of mind. Mañana found her happiness in the silence, and that internal peace is something she can now carry with her, regardless of where she sleeps. But I don't think she's going to go back. The question for you is, do you view Mañana's choice as a feminist triumph or a simple existential need that transcends the politics of the situation, that transcends whether it's a man or a woman, of gender? Does it transcend gender? But in the Georgian case, it is a feminist triumph because she's breaking away. She's breaking the cycle, which I am sure other women would follow that example if they could. Some it will affect in other ways, as maybe that woman who was originally in her apartment. And in other ways, it'll represent a revolution in Georgian society. But who knows? Who knows? That's the question we're left with at the end of the film. So now I open it up to all of you to tell me how you felt about it. By the way, I thought the film is nothing short of fabulous. I thought it was really a great view of another culture, but also it was terrific filmmaking. The cinematography, the contrast of what was going on in her family home versus her apartment. And at the beginning, the apartment's a mess. that she goes to see, but she fixes it up beautifully. And we see her, I mean, I love the little things she does during the film when she goes out to buy the guitar string, which, by the way, it's another significant look of society, because in Georgia, as that they do have those. A lot of people are still doing that. They're selling their stuff from when the Russians were when it was part of the Soviet Union, and it broke up and it became the Republic of Georgia. They're not making a lot of money, so they're constantly selling their belongings on the street. I've seen several films that, in fact, one I have to find if it's even available. I don't know if it's on Kanopy, but I have to find if it's available, because it's another wonderful story set in that part of the world, talking about the same things, the same ideas. And here, but I will recommend the film to you, called Since Otar Left. Since Otar Left. It's another wonderful. It's a view of three women living together, a mother, daughter, and granddaughter, in one apartment, and how they're coping with living in, because the son had departed years before, had gone to France to earn a living, and was only writing letters back and forth. But I will not tell you the plot, because, again, I have to look for it and see if it'll be available to us, because I'm sure it's a film you would totally enjoy. Anyway, let's get back to my happy family. And Sandra, I already see your hand up, so jump right in.
It's interesting because I really was looking forward to your discussion. I am really glad you gave it. I am really glad I could tune into it. And I had wanted to see the film again and didn't have time. And now I really am sorry I didn't have the time, because as you were speaking, what I related to, this was an immigrant experience of my grandparents and parents when they came from Russia, much earlier in the 20th century.
Mhm.
You're describing a world that I understand is very Russian. And I think that it was a really good picture of a family, and a happy family. You could have called it a happy family or an unhappy family. It was a family, and it wasn't a wealthy family. It was a family that was, I was seeing it on an immigrant basis here. And I think that a lot of the film dealt with embarrassment. I just read a book called Shonda by Letty Cotton Pogrebin, and she talks about the shame and the embarrassment that people felt and how you had to keep face. It's very current for what I think are people who don't know how to escape without other people making judgments. And I think I like to believe she left.
Mhm.
And why I like to believe that is there are women who would have left. And I would hope that she might have been one, but that's really it doesn't matter. To me, it was not whether she left or stayed, but the whole idea of when people are in a culture that's very patriarchal. I guess it could be reversed for we're very matriarchal, but if it was particularly with the immigrant situation, which it was in the time I was talking about, I think there had to be escape hatches, and not everybody is capable of opening the hatch. And that she was capable of this, I don't think it spoke as much to her feminism as her character.
Mhm.
I think she was just an extraordinarily strong character who had real creative impulses, and they all came through. But as he was speaking, as I said, I felt I missed some of the connections that I then made when you made certain statements. And I think this is a difficult film.
In some respects, it is. I think it's a film. Again, this is a film that you watch it and then you want to see it. You got to
That's
go back
exactly
and
right.
see it. You really, you can tend to miss so many things. There are so many things happening in the film, but even the title itself, it's My Happy Family. It's not her happiness. It's the family. And you see at the beginning when it's going back and forth, the conversation. The father says, "Who put this here? The musical instrument." So says that. This one, the grandfather with his head, and you don't know where he's going. And with what he's talking about, they're all these relatives coming over and singing going on. It is a cacophony. But maybe that is their happiness. Maybe that's the only thing, because they don't know what happiness is. She can't. How does she know what happiness is until she can get away and sit in a quiet room and eat a piece of cake?
But maybe that wasn't happiness, getting away. Maybe that was just a separate entity. I'm telling you, I saw family occasions like that. It's a real. I think, as I said, I think it's a difficult film. The cinematography, that all fine, but the story itself, I think, is extraordinarily universal.
Yes. Yeah. It's and I didn't even think about it. It is. I always like to look for serendipity in the films that I show. And considering that Thanksgiving is coming up on Thursday, that's one of those family holidays where either it turns into a war zone, among relatives. There's always one who drinks a little too much and says a little too much, and the war breaks out. I mean, I've experienced it many times. So I know that's why it's not one of my favorite holidays. It wasn't. Well, I should say it wasn't. Now it is. There's just three of us and we celebrate. But it used to be just what you're saying. I've had the same experience of my grandparents coming here, my father coming here, and families getting together in cramped rooms. So I understand.
Avalon.
Yes, Avalon.
You
Perfect.
carved the turkey. I mean,
Yeah, right.
but that's the same kind of situation, and I think it's very universal.
Yes, thank you, Sandra. Phyllis.
Yeah, I love this film, and I thought it was really a feminist statement. I thought my favorite scene was when she sat down in front of the open window with a piece of cake. So all of her senses were engaged at that moment. Taste, smell from the nature, hearing, vision, and what else? Touch, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
she was became like a complete human being at that moment. And I thought the title was ironic. I think it was not a happy family. I don't think anyone in that family was happy. And so she needed to escape from that situation to find her own happiness and find out who she was. And she was creative. I forget what she was doing. It almost reminded me a little of the Hardy separation, because I saw so much glass and partitions, and maybe the glass was like the opening to a new life, and she was confined before she got there. I thought it was an interesting scene with the little girl coming, her student, who also had an unfortunate
Right.
experience and was brave enough to exit from that. And she supported her. She originally wasn't going to pass her, but she gave her the information and told her to study. And it just shows women supporting each other. And I thought that was beautiful. Yeah, also the diegetic sound coming when she sat by the window and hearing the beautiful classical music. I mean, all of her senses were engaged and in joy. And I thought it was wonderful. I really
Yeah,
loved it.
and especially because the first thing she does when she's alone, she does open the doors and stands there, and all we hear is the trees, the breeze rushing through the trees. I mean, that's the sound. It's such contrast to what the beginning was. And, you know, when you talk about, I don't think the word happy fits anywhere in there because it's not about happiness, it's about acceptance. Within the family, it's acceptance. You accept a lot you're given, that a woman has to accept this is who she is, this is what she has to do. You know, it's not about your happiness, it's about taking care of everybody else. And, you know,
Yeah.
the mother's constantly complaining. You know, the father just walks around. He was lost in space. You know, the husband had a job, obviously, but she was also an educated woman. I think that's an important facet of the film. Is, you know, she's had her awakenings along the way. You know, teaching, relating to young people. Even her daughter, she even gets along well with her daughter. She takes her daughter to the doctor. You know, and the daughter wants to have a child and can't. You know, is upset about it. So we get all of these things going on. I thought were very real. I found the film to be very, very realistic, especially as a reflective of Ukrainian society, of Georgian society. Excuse me, of Georgian society. So thank you, Phyllis. Linda.
Well, it was very serious, the movie. I loved it. I looked at it as an escape. But there are so many funny parts in that movie. For example, when she goes to see the apartment, if you recall, the rental agent tells him it was a very happy apartment. Uh, and then you find out about
You're right.
and then you find out about the suicide. Then her mother, and I've heard this before. Oh, he's such a wonderful man. He doesn't gamble. You know, like, what are you doing? You know,
Right.
you shouldn't be leaving. On, you know, as far as the brother with that protection scene, that was a riot. Um, I missed the Tolstoy picture on the wall, but you know, I was surprised that she was picking up a guitar. My family is from Russia, and they were either with mandolins or not guitars, but
Balalaika.
yeah,
Balalaika.
balalaika. And then I was never aware, well, because our strings are sold as strings, a G string, whatever, A string, whatever, and she was measuring it. I've never seen that done. Um, there were a lot of really silly parts in that movie, even though it was very serious. Um, and I loved it. I don't know if I like being left at the end, because I have my own thoughts on it. Their eyes meeting the way they met, it's, in my opinion, it's almost like maybe there's a chance, but again, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, for me, it's the perfect ending, and I'll tell you why. Because that ending is the beginning of the conversation. That ending is the beginning of our conversation. It's
Uh-huh.
where when you see a movie like that and it ends like that, you're going to want to talk about it. You
Oh,
know, what just
absolutely.
happened? What's going to happen?
Absolutely.
You know, and so to me, it's a perfect ending. It's the beginning of the conversation. I mean, you
There's
all see what I put down on my
right.
emails. You know, it's not just film; it's conversation, and that's what this is the kind of film that prompts that kind of conversation.
They're
So
all wonderful in it. And I mean, her
yes,
looking out of the window with the trees moving back and forth. I loved it.
yeah, it was terrific. It really was terrific. Uh, okay, let's see. Jackie.
Before I make my comment about the movie, I thought it was kind of funny. Larry said, well, what did Shelley do with all the people who used to come at Thanksgiving? Did he like kill them or what? I mean, you talk about this big family that used to come and now there's only 3. So are we going to
Yes.
need to look into that, Shelley?
No, we found our own quiet space.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we liked it, although the conversation at the end for us, and I think everybody is probably about the same age. Larry looked at me and he goes, it's like being in an old movie theater and the film broke. And that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like you were going to start hearing the clickety, clickety, click because the film had actually broken. I saw it a little bit differently than you guys do. I mean, we enjoyed it, But to be honest with you, maybe it's the way I was raised. I don't think it was that unusual. I think whoever earlier said it was a fairly timely and relevant thing. I think a lot of families are like that. And it was kind of interesting. I mean, we're all so shocked at how the family reacted, but think about it. She didn't say anything. She just left. And I think most families would go, what the heck is wrong with mom? Because that's the way they are. They just absolutely don't get that there was some reason that she might not have been happy. And all of the noise that was in the first apartment, when you really look at it, there was equal noise in her second apartment. It wasn't just breezy, it was downright windy, and she always turned the music up really loud. So, you know, in a lot of ways she was escaping, but in a lot of ways she was holding on to the past too. And I agree with Lynn Previtt. There were a lot of really funny scenes in there that we thoroughly enjoyed. So it was an interesting movie.
Well, we beg to differ because she was, remember, we're looking at a Georgian film. It's a Georgian culture, and it is a patriarchal culture, and it is a cyclical culture. It's this cycle of where young girls get married off very young. They are forced into these situations. They're having children. They wind up living with their in-laws or their parents and their siblings. They're forced into these situations. It's not like, I can't afford an apartment on my own. This is the way it's expected to be. And she's defying expectation. And being in that apartment, being able to eat cake when she wants to eat cake, being able to play the guitar, being able to listen to music quietly on her own is a very big step. And it's not understandable. It's on the basis of the family. It's just not understandable is why would you want to leave? This is the way things have to be.
Exactly. That's my point. Everybody seems to be surprised at how the family reacted. And I think the family would react exactly that way because they just don't get it. It's every day. And all of a sudden she's doing something different. But, I mean, to each his own, but that's kind of how I saw it anyway.
Yeah, well, it is because it's not usual behavior. In other words, a woman in that family is either, if she feels that, stifled, that claustrophobic, is either going to jump out of the window or wind up chasing everybody with a knife. I mean, it's just, you become so, it could drive her crazy. And she's smart enough to say, I got to get out of here. This is not where I want to be. I don't want to be part of this. I want, in a sense, it's not just freedom. It's a sense of finding herself. It's, who am I? What do I really want? It's a sense of self-expression that she's finding. It's the geography of self that was seen in film. It's and that's an important aspect within the communal society that she comes from. You can't breathe without somebody hearing you. And that's, in a sense, what she wants to do, is be able to, on her own terms, her own time, do what she wants to do. And the family doesn't want to understand it because it's not something you do. It's a violation. It's a violation is the way they look at it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Karen?
Yes, I thought the part where her husband stayed and she left, he's the son-in-law, but he's staying with her parents. I thought that was amusing.
Well, let me interrupt you for a second. He was brought up with her. Apparently, yeah, he was brought into the household when he was very young. Maybe his parents died, maybe they left, who knows? But they said they were brought up together, and that's why they wound up together. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing I was going to say is her student inspired her to, leave, not just think about it, but do it instead of, thinking about it and changing her mind. And, she might as well have some peace, leave while she had the thought in her mind.
Well, it was the opening of the film. The first thing we see is her getting a newspaper. And she's looking through the newspaper. And next thing you know, she's looking in an apartment. We have no idea what's coming.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about this kind of filmmaking is, okay, we're following this character, what's going on here. She buys a newspaper. Next thing she's looking in an apartment, and next thing you know, she's coming back to the family, and all she wants to do is sit down and eat a piece of cake, and the mother's all over her.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, it just began to show us, this film was like peeling an onion. We were getting all these layers, all of this wonderful in the way it reveals itself.
Right.
It's one of the keys to film is how do you reveal? What is revelation? What is resonance? We get resonance from this film, certainly. I think a lot of, not just women, but men too, would resonate from this film. And of course the relevance is just clearly there. So thank you, Karen. Rachel?
I really enjoyed the film, and I thought it was a cultural experience for me because I don't know about that culture that much, but I got one family dynamics. And what I found so interesting was that her character never exploded. She never said, "Oh my God, just shut up," or anything. Everything she did, she just made a resolution. I'm going to do this. And I do think, like Karen said, that the student inspired her because I remember their dialogue. She was asking her poignant questions, like, once you make a decision, act on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that stuck in her head. I'm going to act on it. And initially, I felt like Jackie in regards, I'm like, what? I mean, what? I was like, but now after hearing what you said, I'm thinking that they might still have a connection, but it's going to be on her terms.
Mm-hmm.
She is not going to go back to the things. You want to eat dinner, you eat here. You want, to be in my life, then, I need my quiet space. And, I think that eye contact that they made at the end, because they have such history together, okay? But also, she never confronted him about the cheating, and we don't know if she ever will.
Well, she was sort of confronting him in the end by not saying it. He knew. He began to suspect. I mean, he sensed that she knew at that point. You never told me. It's that he withheld something, and
Right. Yeah,
he
but
sensed
she
it.
didn't outright confront
No.
him. And I think maybe it is part of the culture about women, not to confront. And she really, throughout, she didn't actually say to people, "I'm leaving because I can't stand being with you guys." She never really said her reasoning. Okay. She really didn't. And I thought that was interesting. For me,
Well, yeah. Go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no,
I'm
what were you
sorry.
going to say?
Well, she didn't. She did not love these people. I mean, it was in a sense, this was her family, and it wasn't like she hated them. She just didn't want to be around them so much. She wanted her own private little space.
Yes, we know that, but I
Yeah.
don't think she expressed that to them.
I think she couldn't. If she expressed it to them, they'd tell her she's crazy. They would look at her like she's insane.
Well, they thought she
How
was
could
crazy. So, at this point, to me, they already thought she was nuts, that she is going against every cultural thing. So why not go full blown and actually tell them, I can't, I need my private space.
They wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't understand it. Go sit in the other room for 10 minutes. That would be their idea. I mean, they don't understand that. It's not in their DNA. It's not their culture. So therefore, within that cultural norm, within that societal norm, she couldn't demand, I want my own space. To them, it's verboten. It's violating the contract. It's violating a social contract in a way. So, and with her husband, he certainly violated the marital contract.
Sure.
So, but yet somebody does make the remark, I think it was at the reunion, one of the women made the remark, well, at least he stayed with her. He didn't stay with he could have left. He didn't do that. And we don't know how much he took care of them. But the young boy was very polite when she came to the apartment, if you remember.
Yes.
The mother was talking on the phone. She didn't even care. I love it when she passes the gas bill or whatever it was supposed to be. She just signs it. She has no idea of what's being foisted on her. It was very interesting. But she had to see. She had to see. But you know what she saw? She saw a woman living alone with her son. She didn't see a woman living with her parents and her son and her brothers and sisters. She saw a woman living alone with her son. We have to think about how the directors are setting the scenes, how they're setting the stage. And it's very interesting when you think about it, when you start to think about what we're seeing in the context of the film and the story. So thank you, Rachel. Wait, I see a couple of hands. I'll get to you, Barbara. I promise. Louise?
I just want to say that I found it difficult because it was so depressing to me, but and also because I was in Georgia in 2018 and 19, and I think it tells a story of what is going on in that generation at the reunion. Her friends are aware of a lot of societal changes, and there is a very vibrant, at least in Tbilisi. Tbilisi is the main city, but very vibrant youth culture, very, very modern, very music centered, very wine centered. It's changing a lot. And I think that the director is telling us that it's changing even for this generation. Because they were, I think Russia's been impinging on them even more. So I think it's getting more difficult there again. But it's not the kind of society that I pictured Georgia was going to be like. Armenia, a little bit more so.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the last film we saw, Tangerines, we saw Russia's presence. Even in the 90s, we saw Russia's presence in northern Georgia. So yeah, I mean, of course, we know Putin would love to have it back. There's no question. There's no question. So there's some insidious things going on. Definitely, they play around with the politics, but the culture itself is certainly certainly very Russian in its aspects. Thank you, Louise.
Remember that there was a revolution, that the people themselves rose up. I mean, there is that spirit in Georgia. They are not going to let what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, it could happen, but they're very aware of how freedom is important to them.
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough people. Yes, I agree. Thank you. Linda, did you have something else?
I did. I forgot. The daughter was the beginning of a whole parallel story in my feelings, because she was being betrayed. And I mean, wasn't she the one that threw the pot that hit the grandfather? She meant to get her boyfriend. She probably found out that somebody else besides her mother saw him with somebody else.
See, yes, it's the same. Yes,
it's a parallel theme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great. I'm glad you brought that up. It's true. It's
Poor grandfather.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody else want to jump in there? Phyllis, go ahead.
I always have something more to say. I think it was very productive that she did find out about her husband's infidelity, because it puts them on equal footing. I mean, first she realized she was living a lie. So not only was she living in this chaos, but she was being a loyal wife to this guy who hadn't been loyal to her. So in the end, when they confront each other, they're on, she's got a bargaining chip. They've got equal status, and they'll negotiate a new way forward based on truth. So I thought that was very nice. And also I thought the scene with his lover and her son was hysterical. I mean, this woman was like Miss Social Butterfly, and you just, what an interesting contrast she was with our main character.
Yeah.
Totally flighty and, sociable and not thoughtful or quiet or introspective at all.
Yes, yes, I agree. I
Mm.
agree. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you see, this is perfect. I love it because, this is the conversation. The more you talk about it, the more you realize things have happened, things you've seen that you can bring up and relate to the film. And that's what I love about these conversations, also reflecting on your own experiences. Um, anybody else? Anybody else have anything they want to add? Before I tell you about December. Barbara, I'm sorry I didn't get to you. Yes, I apologize.
Like, um, I thought it was kind of a universal story, and I didn't think they were in a happy family. Any culture that has that multi-generational thing going on, that's what the families are like.
Mhm.
And I wanted just to point out there were two little things that the director did, which I thought were wonderful. And that was when the grandfather, who doesn't say a word through the whole movie, get conked in the heads and starts yapping about all the governments he's been through.
Yes.
And when the mother, she says she's leaving, the mother is just in the background with an ice pack, walking around with the ice pack on her face. But when I was in my teen, from the time I was 10 until I got out of high school, I lived in Puerto Rico. And that's what the families were like. The grandmother was there, the mother was there, the unemployed uncle was in the back bedroom, something. And it was chaotic, but I don't think that they were unhappy.
Uh,
That's what families are, big and messy.
yeah, they certainly are. It's interesting you talking about the grandfather because there are three distinct generations in the film, and her father and mother, which we call them grandpa and grandma because they have grandchildren, or gonna have grandchildren. But
That's a
the
great
fact,
grandchild, isn't it?
no, because those are Manana's parents, and
They're the grandparents to all of Banana's children. So when that girl is
yeah,
pregnant,
so
that's going to
yes,
be
you're
a
right.
great
You're right. Yeah, it's
grandchild.
going to be. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, you're right. Great grandchildren. The fact is that the three generations. That older generation lived through communism.
Yeah.
And when you see, especially I've seen in Georgian films, when people reflect on the political situation, there are always some that will say it was better under communism. Why? Because they told you where to stand. They told you what to wear. They told you, how to think or not think. You didn't have to think. They told you what to do. The state, they saw it as the state made the rules and you follow them. Then the next generation that experiences the freedom becomes totally different. And in a sense, it makes this an evolutionary film, not just a revolutionary film, but evolutionary in the sense that each generation adapts something new, or hopefully will. That, even though it's cyclical, that they'll hopefully, develop new attitudes and become more Western in their thinking, or more modern. I shouldn't say Western, I said more modern in their thinking. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Thank you. Marilyn?
So based on what Linda and Barbara said, I found them as parents, her particularly as parents, her relationship with her son and her daughter. I found both of them very interesting. She really was a very nurturing parent to the daughter who was going through a really rough time, thinking that if she got pregnant, it would solve all her problems, which
Right.
probably be the beginning of the problems. And the son who was going to have a baby. And here you're talking about the next generation as they're going to enter. So you're going to have 4 generations, and then as they don't look like they're going anywhere. So
Yeah,
I
it's
found
true.
that whole, you're talking about generational, And I'm looking at like the great-great-grandchildren, and it looks like this is one big happy family or not.
Well, it's a community at this point. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, we can't fathom today. You know, I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, but I certainly could live in a situation like that. I mean, you can't. You know, it's not about hiding. It's just having some space. Just having some space. So it is interesting. It is interesting. Okay. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Ask. I don't see any hands. I don't see any questioning. Okay. Well, let me tell you about what's coming up in December. December, I have two very interesting films. They're two very disparate films. One is from India, and one is a co-production French-Russian film, but it's almost a classic already. But the Indian one is All We Imagine Is Light. All We Imagine Is Light. It's I think it's a stunning motion picture. Again, it's talking about two women and then a third one coming into it, living in Mumbai. And it's dealing with living in a city like Mumbai as two single women. The film won the grand prize at Cannes. For some reason, it never got nominated for an Academy Award. I think it would have been a major contender this past year. But it's a soulful study of transformation, of the transformational power of friendship and sisterhood, and in all its complexities and richness. The light, the lives, and the textures of contemporary working class Mumbai are explored and celebrated through the story of these two women who room together and work as nurses in a city hospital. Now, I will tell you, when you watch it, and I will remind you when it's coming up again, but when you watch it, look at the scenes, look at the cinematography, and try and keep the opening scene in your head. The opening scene when we first meet the major character in the film. I want you to, hopefully you'll remember it throughout the film. There's a reason I won't give away why, certainly, but you'll understand when you see the film. And the second one is I want to go out with an uplifting film for the end of the year. And it's entitled The Concert. The Concert. It's a film from 2009. It's an absolutely wonderful film. It's by a great director, but it's the story of a conductor of the Bolshoi Orchestra who 30 years before, now understand this is 2010 in Russia, but 30 years before he was fired for not letting the Jewish musicians in the Bolshoi go. He retained them. Anyway, they all got fired, and now he's a mere cleaning man at the Bolshoi. But by an accident of fate, things will change. And the film shifts to Paris. But again, it's a very revelatory story. There are revelations, little mysteries, and it's just a very musical, wonderful, again, a cacophonous, diverse film that I think you'll totally enjoy when we get around to it. So I will leave you with those two and wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving. No fighting, no disagreements. Don't let anybody drink too much.
Give us the dates. Give us the dates for those two programs. Is it the 20th, the 4th, and the
yeah, hold on. For December, we are 4th.
I have the
Why do we
4th
only
and
have
the
one?
18th.
The 4th and the 18th. That's it.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. Okay, So without any further, no questions, comments,
No,
nothing.
so
I
much.
wish you all a happy, healthy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Enjoy.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
To
Eat,
all of you
drinking,
too.
eat, drinking modification, and be happy.
No fighting.
Right.